Welcome to LSB Feaster's Radio Aircheck and Classic TV channel.
Airport 43 downtown. I'm Vic Vaughn in the WGN newsroom, ready to join the conversation live whenever a story changes on Chicago's very own 720 WGN.
Welcome back, everyone. Nick Digilio here on 720 WGN. We're live in the All-State Studio, 7th floor of the Tribune Tower. We're here till 5. Steve Grzanich with the opening bell at 5. The great Steve Cochran at 6 for your morning drive. It's Monday morning. That means my dad's going to call in and tell a joke. We got a Blackhawks Express to play back. We're going to talk about some Christmassy stuff, too, since this is the last show I'll be hosting before Christmas, and then we'll be back for the new year. Erik, Childress, Collin, Souter joined me live in studio because it's Star Wars weekend. Well, let's start with Erik. I think apropos that you should actually tell us what the plot is of Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Yeah, you always wish that you always have the scroll in front of you, so you can just read the scroll.
Right.
Just, start there and just go from there. But I mean, this movie pretty much The Last Jedi. We're in episode 8, and it takes place almost immediately after the events of The Force Awakens. The rebels have been caught, essentially found by the First Order from the base that they were on, and they are escaping. They have to plot a massive escape and get out of there before they're basically completely wiped out. And that includes Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac, who is still incredibly impulsive and is the best fighter pilot in the galaxy, and he helps lead this raid at the beginning that it doesn't quite, go the way that everyone planned it. Meanwhile, Rey has found Luke Skywalker. And the movie takes we get right to that moment that we ended on in The Force Awakens, and Luke is not interested in being a part of the Resistance anymore. He has hidden himself away for a purpose. He's still scarred by what happened with Kylo Ren, and he's going to find out some more bad news as a result of that. But Rey keeps pushing him. Knows that there's something growing inside her that she really wants to know, to understand. And Luke, whether or not he's going to train her or show her the ways of the Force, that's part of the drama as well. And then you have Finn, John Boyega, who has woken up from his coma and still not, he's still looking for a way out, but he's mostly looking for Rey. He really wants to be reunited with Rey, and that brings him to a new addition to the story, a young woman named Rose, who is basically just a guard, and she works as a not even a technician. That's a good, best way to describe it. And she would love to be part of the Resistance, but she's, that's where she is.
And she just lost her sister.
And she just lost her sister in the aforementioned raid. Right. And then the two of them team up to then thwart the First Order's plan that they're continuing to chase them throughout the galaxy. They can, I don't want to give away too much, but everyone has their own purpose throughout this movie. Okay. As always.
All right. And I want you to tell everybody what you thought of it.
I loved it.
I don't think anybody's surprised.
No, and you shouldn't be. Even as someone who defended the prequels in the past, I'm happy to go back on some of that praise now with this new trilogy, because as you mentioned, Nick, the direction that this thing is going, I think is absolutely wonderful. I think Force Awakens was this bridge to, with the old school and the new school, to sort of bring everyone on board. The brilliant touch to bring the old cast back. It wasn't just some wipe out everything and start fresh. They bring the old cast old cast back to sort of massage us into this new world. And at the same time, I think the one thing The Force Awakens doesn't get enough credit for is introducing these wonderful new characters that we immediately got on board with. That we were by the end of the movie, not even by the end of the movie, by first act of the movie, we were totally invested in their stories, and by the end of it, we couldn't wait to see where they went next.
Right.
And here, Rian Johnson, who wrote and directed the movie, I think does some beautiful things with the themes of Star Wars. That the overriding theme of the movie that we're seeing is that you have to kill the past if you want to go forward in the future. And everyone has their own variation on that. Some just in their relationship, whether Finn is going to be cowardly or he's going to join the rebellion. With Kylo Ren, he's literally destroying the past to fulfill his purpose. And Daisy Ridley's Rey is trying to discover where her lineage is, discover where her who her parents were, and what if she's going to become a Jedi or not. And Luke is completely he's already shed away the past. And the interesting thing in this movie is that not only is that a thematic arc for the characters, but it's actually an arc for the series as a whole. Because obviously we know, everyone knows what the shocking twist was in Force Awakens, and that was sort of the beginning of it. And I'm not introducing that as a spoiler for this one, but you see in this movie the literal representation of Ryan destroying the old school to present us, to bring us into the future. We saw maybe a little bit with that Rogue One that was a prequel of sorts. It was the old characters, but it was a new generation of characters. And we're seeing that here now. And I think it is so perfectly encapsulated what I think is the best final shot in any Star Wars movie to date. The final, there are so many shots during the last 45 minutes of the movie where I was just sitting there and don't end here. Please don't end here. Please just keep going. And the movie just kept going. It kept paying off things. And then it gives you that group shot. It holds on this group shot for a moment. I'm like, okay, here comes the fade in, the director. Yeah. And then they pull back for a second, and they go somewhere else. Yeah. And they give you this final moment that is so beautiful, so perfect, so touching. It really moved me because it's not just the next generation of the rebellion. It's not just the next generation of Star Wars fans. It can also represent the next generation of filmmakers who have seen these movies and are inspired to create their own thing, just the way that Abrams and Rian Johnson were. I think it is a beautiful, beautiful movie. On top of being incredibly thrilling, really exciting, other things that I'm sure we're going to touch upon, some really badass moments in this movie. I loved it. It's even better the second time.
Okay, we got to take a break here, and then we'll come back. We'll find out what Collin thought of it. I'll give you my review, and then we'll just talk in general about the movie as well, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff we need to say. So it's Star Wars The Last Jedi, and we'll have more of that coming up right after we take a break. Flashback to the 80s and laugh along with the Goldbergs, starring Chicago's very own Jeff Garlin, weeknights at 10:30 and 11 on WGN TV. All of us online. WGNradio.com. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Nick Digilio here on 720 WGN. And we're live in the All-State Studio, 7th floor of the Trib Tower, here till 5. Got some Christmas stuff to talk about. We'll play back Jay Thomas's great story about Lone Ranger, which is a Christmas tradition, used to be on Letterman. My dad's going to call in and tell a joke because it's Monday, and we got a Blackhawks Express coming up as well. 312-981-7200 is the phone number for talk and text, 312-981-7200. You can also check us out, follow us on Twitter at Nick D Show. Best way to stay connected is on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Nick D Show. Collin Souter and Erik Childress join me every Monday morning to review the movies here in studio this week because it's Star Wars week, and we had the guys come down, bring some of their toys and collectibles down, and we did a video of showcasing all of their stuff, and you can find that online soon at WGNradio.com, and there'll be a link on our Facebook page as well, so you can watch that. But they're here, and Erik just gave his preliminary review of The Last Jedi, and he loved it, seen it twice, and Collin, go ahead.
Loved it too, and I've seen it 3 times. And the first time I saw it, it was, I mean, this always happens when we first see a new Star Wars movie. We go to the press screening, and the excitement of it is part of the reason. I mean, the first time you see it is never the same time after that. So I always like to see it 2 or 3 times before coming in here to talk about it. And the first time I saw it, it was incredibly exciting, but it felt very busy. Like, I mean, not in a bad way, but like, there's an A story, a B story, a C story, a D story. Yeah. Like, everybody has their own little plot going on here, and it's sometimes got a little hard just like keeping track of the threads. Like, oh, this character's back. Wait, when did I last see them again? And okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right. so the second and third time I saw it, it felt a lot smoother, a lot tighter. I noticed a lot more little subtleties in it that I didn't pick up on the first time. So it gets richer every time I see it, which is a cool thing to say about a Star Wars movie. And I really just appreciate a lot of the themes that Rian Johnson explored in this, especially with, I mean, the Force and being a Jedi, and it just kind of harkens back to, I mean, what we think about, like, the role religion plays in spirituality, and just, how, if you claim, the idea that the Jedi, that if the Jedis die, the Force dies with it, and like how much of that is just vanity. And I just love that he introduced that idea in this whole thing. I also just think this is the perfect Star Wars movie for 2017. And I know this is not written with all this stuff in mind that we've been going through this year, but like, just remember the beginning of the year started with the Women's March, and Carrie Fisher's face, her spirit was all over that march. I mean, she had just died, of course. And the scenes with her in this film have this extra weight to them that they would not have had otherwise. We would have been, if she hadn't died, we'd be saying she's really great in this movie. She's carrying a lot of it on her shoulders, and she's doing, the best acting she's ever done in a film. But now it's like there's this whole other dimension to it. And I got to say, like, one of my favorite scenes is a scene that might have been left on the cutting room floor because it's not that, like, it doesn't push the story along, but it's a scene between her and Laura Dern.
Yep.
Oh my God! Like, the dialogue, just listen to the dialogue in that movie. Like, Laura Dern is representing every woman in America who was at that march, talking to Carrie Fisher and saying what they would want to say to Carrie Fisher, and it's beautiful. And Erik, you talked about the final scene, which I know we won't give it away, but like, I think the scene, what one character says before they cut to that scene is so vital. It's like, what is gonna save us? Well, our past is actually also gonna save us. We have to throw it away, but we also have to remember the good stuff. We have to remember the legends and the heroes and the stories, and we have to take those with us into the next generation of, whatever our next battle or whatever our next confrontation or conflict is going to be. And that's such an important point that this movie makes about that sort of thing. Every time I see this movie, it gets richer and richer, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think it's great too, man. I just thought it was really, really great, and I loved it. And I'll tell you what my thoughts after we take a break. So we got to take a break. I'll tell you what I thought of it, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. The Star Wars The Last Jedi is out, and we'll come back and talk more about it right here on 720 WGN.
It's time again to celebrate another Cochrane New Year's Eve. We start the show at 7 p.m. After 9 o'clock you leave. There's music, laughter, the match game too. Special guests for all to see. So come on down to Downers Grove and celebrate at the Tivoli.
Big laughs for New Year's Eve for people that can't stay awake until midnight. The show starts at 7. You're home before 10. Eventbrite.com for tickets. Sponsored by American Weathermakers. And as always, it's an Iceman production.
Get Chicago news first at the top of every hour. I'm Vic Vaughn on Chicago's very own 720 WGN.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. Nick Digilio here on 720 WGN. We're live in the All-State Studio, 7th floor of the Trib Tower, here till 5 a.m. My dad's going to call in and tell a joke, and we've got some Christmas stuff we're going to be talking about as well. But right now, we are in the middle of the talking about the new Star Wars movie. Erik, Childress, Collin, Souter, live in studio with us. They brought down their merchandise and their toys and all the cool Star Wars stuff that they have. And we've got a video exclusively that's available at WGNradio.com soon where you can see all that stuff. And we're back. We're talking about Star Wars The Last Jedi. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, I know you guys both loved it. I loved it too. I thought it was really, really great. And what you said, Erik, I think perfectly sums it up. This is the new Star Wars. This is the new thing now. So, everybody loves the old stuff, but this is where it's going. And I think Rian Johnson boldly took it another step. Like really bravely and boldly took it. And as a result, there's backlash about it, which I just think is ridiculous. Because, it's funny because people, when Force Awakens came out, the naysayers were bitching about it because it was too much like A New Hope. Like it was a carbon copy of A New Hope. Put the thing in the droid, find the droid, blah, 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 So they're bitching about it. Now, because this veers a lot away from the earlier Star Wars stuff, people are bitching about that now. Like, what do you want? What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
So there are wonderful allusions to the earlier stuff and bringing back some of the characters. The best thing Mark Hamill's ever done, in my opinion. I think Mark Hamill's great in it. I think he's great. And Carrie Fisher, please. Obviously, she's phenomenal in it, and she's in it a lot too, man. She's a major character in the movie, and and again, these new characters. That we know. This is really, you get to see a lot of Poe in this movie, which I was happy about because I loved him so much in Force Awakens. I wanted more of him
and give him a real arc.
Oh yeah, no question about it. No question about it. And he's Oscar Isaac just rules in it, and there are, obviously on the simplest of levels, the effects are amazing. The big battle sequence at the end. On the planet with the salts, and I can't remember the name of the planet, but that they're on is amazing, visually unbelievable. There's a huge confrontation at the end between the two main characters, the two, like the good and the evil, just badass and just incredible. And there's just so much great stuff in it. It's exciting. It's funny. I like the Porgs. I don't care. I think they're cute, and I like them. Man, he's happy about that. It's exciting, and it runs 2.5 hours, and it doesn't feel like it's 2.5 hours at all. There's not a moment in this movie that drags. And I really love the direction that they went into. I want to talk a little bit about the performances. You mentioned Laura Dern. Laura Dern is phenomenal in this movie. And that scene between the two of them, oh my God, between Laura Dern, and you could just see it in their faces, especially Laura Dern's face.
Laura Dern has never been more happy to deliver a line of dialogue.
There's no question about it.
That scene.
Like, you could
look
just,
at her face.
exactly, you could just see
she's so happy.
Laura Dern light up during this scene that she gets to work with Carrie Fisher and say this dialogue. It's a special moment. It's, really, not just in the movie, but for the actresses themselves. And there's a lot of stuff in this movie that goes beyond the movie. There's stuff in this movie that is, it's really, there's just a lot of stuff going on in this film, and it really is about a lot and killing the past. Some of the performances, obviously we mentioned Carrie Fisher. I think Mark Hamill's great in it, obviously, bringing him back. I think Kelly Marie Tran is tremendous, and I think her character is wonderful and a nice addition to it.
Fantastic.
And the stuff between her and Boyega is great. So I love that stuff. Benicio del Toro shows up
Oh, my God.
for another weird performance where he, sometimes stutters and sometimes doesn't, but he's great.
Bring him back.
He's
Most original stutter I've ever heard.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
He's Benicio del Toro in it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I love the character. There are a lot of we'll talk about this off the air if you guys can help me, because there are some cameos in the movie. That who the guy who played the safecracker with the guy gambling.
Yeah.
Now, is that the dude from The Artist?
No, that's you want me to say who it is?
Okay.
It's Justin Theroux.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's who it is.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I thought it was the dude from The Artist. Seriously, I thought it was the guy from The Artist.
Yeah.
So, but all right, anyway, Oscar Isaac is fun in it. There's a really hilarious scene early in the movie between Hux and Poe.
Oh gosh,
where he's like, "New phone, who dis?" essentially, which I thought was hilarious.
I think are they all going to open with a funny scene with Oscar Isaac? Does it? Like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. But I want to mention, and again, all this stuff is great. The story, where it's going, it's deep, it's significant. Star Wars fans should be happy. Really, really happy, because this is a pretty extraordinary piece of work. But I got to tell you, man, Adam Driver is unbelievable in these movies. He really is unbelievable. Like, his performance in this movie, I think, is Oscar worthy. I really do. I think, supporting actor nomination, I would vote for him. He's unbelievable. They do some stuff between him and Daisy Ridley that's really amazing, and it takes it to another level. Yeah. But man, the last 10 minutes, Adam Driver in this film. But he's playing it so well. There's so many different emotions happening in this. There's a scene, a fight scene. Obviously, I won't give anything away. Where he and Daisy Ridley are in the middle of a huge fight. It's so badass, and he's what happens after that. Mm-hmm. The acting that happens between him and Daisy Ridley, it's great. Yeah. Really good stuff. Wow, that's great acting, which you don't normally expect from a Star Wars movie. Yeah. But I wanted to point out how good the acting is in this movie and how rich the characters have become. But in particular, I think Adam Driver is amazing in this movie. Really amazing. Not just a one-dimensional villain. Lots of stuff going on. Really conflicted stuff. And it's all there on the surface. It's a terrific film.
It's really interesting that you guys bring up a couple things that I think might point to some of the backlash that we're hearing about. I mean, when I was posting stuff on Twitter earlier, and I just tried to put in The Last Jedi, the other hashtags would come up. The Last Jedi sucked. Last Jedi awful. All these kind of things. Okay, Kylo Ren is kind of playing that generation of Star Wars fans. Kylo Ren is kind of that thing, and whether they're savvy enough to recognize that, there adds an additional irony to who that character is and what was going after. And I'm really glad that Collin mentioned the Women's March. Okay, not that because you try to layer some sort of political thing over it, which Star Wars has always had a political thing to it. Anyway, so to ignore that, the word wars
is in the title,
right? Yeah, right. Yeah. So to ignore that is just ignoring what's going on in the movie. But one of the things that one of the things that upset fans, or not fans, but trolls, for The Force Awakens was, now we got a chick.
Yeah, I mean,
that. So there's that. But here, Rian Johnson doubles down and triples down on it, because this entire movie is about a bunch of petulant boys, who are all taught a lesson by a woman. Every single character in this movie. Poe's arc is entirely about that. He's a guy that just wants to, he's cracking jokes. He wants to blow stuff up, but he's getting people killed too. He wants to do the right thing, but he's not doing it the right way, and then he's taught by women. Exactly. John Boy, Finn. Gives a new direction with Rose. Rey. Brings Luke back. Right. All these things. All these characters are so instrumental to what's going on, and I think that's another reason why. Again, whether they're savvy enough to recognize that, I can't really say, but I think that's another thing. Just like, the women in this movie strong, and that means it's a political thing. No. No, it's a good point, man. That's a really, really good point. You're absolutely right. And then, we're talking about a lot of the stuff that works on so many different levels, and politically what the movie kind of meant, and how it affects people emotionally during this period of history. But it also just kicks ass. It also, just on the simplest of levels,
the action sequences and the special effects and the characters and the creatures and all that stuff, wonderful stuff.
Sound design,
everything about it, technically, is great. There's a sequence where Finn and Rose essentially are riding these giant creatures through like a racetrack and they destroy a casino. All of that stuff is fantastic and really fun. And the another thing about it is, and this goes all the way back to New Hope, where the cantina scene where you're introduced to all these weird characters, and that's become sort of a thing that's in every Star Wars movie now. They triple down in this one. I mean, to the point where like you're going to miss a lot of these really intricate and crazy characters that just kind of fly by, and that's another reason why when you go back multiple viewings, you can watch scenes like that and go, oh, look at that thing, and look at this character, and what's going on here.
But what's interesting about that whole casino sequence is that it's not overdone either. Like, it's very refined. Like, they didn't like overpopulate it with weird creatures and weird things going on in the background. There's enough going on to where and a lot of humor in it too. I love the idea of using putting coins into a TV.
Yeah, it was hilarious. And then the payoff for that.
Oh my god!
It's just
that's another thing about this movie is like there's so much going on, but every little setup is paid off.
Yeah,
it's like a Zemeckis Gale Star Wars movie in a way.
Yeah, there's so much going on, and for fans of the I really think that there's a really huge emotional payoff at the end of this film. The use of Luke Skywalker and the way he comes back. It's really and I'm not even a huge Star Wars fan, and yet the payoff to that at the very end was amazing. I think it's great, man. I really do, and I'll definitely see it again. It was really interesting to watch Force Awakens like about 16 hours before I saw this. Well, I mean, again, it was a nice refresher because I hadn't seen Force Awakens maybe about a year. So I watched the whole thing, but to see the transition between what that movie was and what this movie is, it's more complete. You know what I mean? Like watching how the progression that they're making. So the third one in this trilogy, so it'd be episode 9, Abrams is coming back to direct that.
Right. And the other thing that the Rian Johnson, I think, will my explanation for why there might be a backlash, again, it's a little skeptical exactly where it's coming from. It's just, 1 is just blatant trolling. Obviously. 2 is the woman thing that I mentioned. But also 3 is that Rian Johnson is almost trolling the trolls by reveals in this movie. And it's like all the people that have written think pieces and have tried to decipher everything that they thought they knew about The Force Awakens and its secrets for 2 years. Rian Johnson went like, no. You know nothing. You know absolutely nothing.
Exactly. All right, cool. It's a great movie, everybody. You don't even have to be a big Star Wars fan to love it. So let's take a break, you guys. Hang on. And then we'll come back. We'll talk box office about how well it did over the weekend. All right. We got break here for weather and traffic, and I got the weather for you right now. Today, drizzle in the morning, partly sunny in the afternoon, and a high around 44. Tonight, mostly cloudy and mild, low around 35. Tomorrow, Tuesday, partly cloudy, high around 46. Wednesday, mostly cloudy, high around 40. And for Thursday, mostly cloudy, high around 43. It is currently 43 degrees at O'Hare, 43 at Midway, 44 at the lakefront. Let's get a check on traffic with Esmeralda Leon.
Right now, we're not seeing any major issues, but just keep an eye out with the road work that's going to be there till 5 a.m. So you might see some delays as you're coming in.